Welcome, hello, hello, and welcome to my channel. And I am back with another story time for you guys. This story takes place when I was 17 years old. I had my first daughter when I was 16, 2 weeks before my 17th birthday. Because this story is one of my biggest heartbreaks in my life, one of my biggest disappointments, and I have tried to block the memories. I tried not to ever go back in time and think about this story, but I decided that I was going to share this story with you guys in the world. Now, it has taken me a while to build up the confidence to really tell my story, because this story touches me, and one of the people that I love more than anything in this world, I still love till this day, I'll always love till the day I die, is my mother. Yes, I love her. I love her with all my heart. Okay, this story takes place in Newark, New Jersey, where I am originally from. I had my daughter, and I lived on my own. Now, let me give you guys a quick rundown. I was scared to death when I went into labor with my daughter that I was considered a legal adult, but the owner told me, okay, that's it, you can't stay here anymore. So I explained to the owner that I have been looking for my mom, and I have been looking for a place to go, but it hasn't been easy. Once I had my daughter, was too much for me for having a child. All I could think about was, regardless of what I've been through with my mom, maybe I can just go back home. And he said that I had until the next day to move my things. The door would be locked and my things would be outside. Okay, yeah, so literally I had no money, no funds, nothing. I started walking. Man, I felt like I had been walking forever. I had nothing to eat that day, that morning at all. I was thirsty and I was tired. When I got to the door, I think I had been standing at the door maybe 30 minutes. I couldn't bring myself to knock on the door. I was scared to death. You know, when I heard my mom's voice, my heart began to like pump real fast. I was just literally frightened. And it got really quiet. So I said, I'm not going to knock again, because I know that I heard my mother's voice. I heard her say, what's Boo-Boo doing here? She didn't open the door. So I sat down on the top of the stairs. It's like a steep stairway. It was really steep. Like, if you didn't watch your second step, you probably would tumble down the stairs. It was very far down and very steep. So I just sat on the very top step, and I just hold my daughter in my hand. I said, well, I'm just going to sit here until she opened the door. Now, me and my daughter had been out there for maybe over an hour. She didn't open the door. And then I finally heard like a creak and the chains unlocking from the door. And she opened it, and she stuck her head out. And she said, what are you doing here? And I said, can I talk to you? And she said, about what? So I stood up, and I was holding my daughter, and I said I had a daughter. And she said, oh, okay. And she says, oh, well, hold on. So she closed the door, and I was waiting by the door for her to open up the door again. And when she opened up the door, she took my daughter from my arms, and she was like, and all my sisters and brother, they were just at the door, and they were just like, wow. They was like, hey, boo-boo, calling my name and everything. And they were just excited to see me. But my mom kind of left them behind her and was telling them to be quiet. And she picked up my daughter. She basically took my daughter and said, okay, your daughter can come inside, but you can't. And I said, okay. I just took it as in, she's sore. She's still mad, still angry. Maybe I deserve this. So I'm just sitting on the porch, and maybe she'll let me in, you know? So I heard them all excited about my daughter. Now, it was all excited about my daughter. Now, I had been out in that hallway maybe going on 6 hours. I was wet, I was cold, and I was freezing. I had my head in my lap, and I didn't even realize that I fell asleep until my feet went numb. Once I started feeling like my feet was numb, I started standing up and trying to shake and trying to get my feet to wake up and stuff. And I was just standing at the door, and I decided to knock on the door. And my sister came to the door, and she says, "Boo-boo, Mommy said you can't come in." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Can I get something to drink?" And she said, "Mommy said no." I said, "Can you tell Mommy I'm hungry? Can I just get something to eat?" She said no. And I said, okay. So I sat back down. And about a couple of hours later, I'm thinking she's going to open up the door. She's going to let me in. She's going to let me warm up. She's going to, talk to me. Everything's going to be okay. But instead, she basically had dried my daughter, I guess, clothes and fed her and did her hair. And she handed me back my daughter with her snowsuit back on and everything and said, "Okay, well, I don't care what you do or where you stay, but you can't stay here." And she shut the door. And I'm standing at the door like, oh my God. So I'm holding my daughter, and my daughter basically asleep. She's sound asleep. And I didn't move from by the door. I was just standing there looking at the door. I wanted to beat on the door and bang on the door. I wanted to just say, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'll be the wrong one. Help me. I'm scared. I'm cold." I wanted to do all those things. I actually wanted to beat down the door and just go run into one of the beds and get underneath the covers, warm up and go to sleep. But, even if I wanted to, I didn't even have the strength anymore to do that. Now, I turned around and I sat on that porch with my daughter, and I noticed that I fell asleep again, and that it was morning time. The sun was coming up and everything. You could see it coming through the windows of the hallway. And I said, well, I can't sit here forever. And at this point, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do and how I was going to do it, but I know I need to start walking, because sitting here, nothing was going to happen. Well, I started walking with my daughter, and I started walking down that real long, slopey hill. Now, I made it all the way back to Eloise's house, which is Juanita's mom's. And they went and helped me get my things from my old place, and I ended up at her house. She told me I didn't have to worry about her son for a few days, but after that, she's just going to make sure that he don't bother me, he don't say nothing to me. But I could not sleep. I was woke the whole night. I was freaking out. I was scared to death of him coming near, and I'm there. Well, Juanita was telling me that maybe I should go down to social services and get some type of help. And I did. And which social service, for me back then, was called is welfare, social services. And I went down there and told them my situation, and they told me that the only way that they can help me find a place to live, I would have to stay in an all-woman shelter. And basically, you stay there for 30 to 90 days, and they help you find a place to live. They'll pay for it and furnish it for you and get you set up. Now, I did not want to live. Living in a shelter was like the worst thing in the world to me. Like, I just couldn't even imagine living in a shelter. All kind of people, all kind of stories that I heard. I was scared to death, but then I thought about it, and I said, well, you know what? I got to put my child first, and staying with Eloise right now is dangerous. So yeah, I went to the shelter. So when I got to the shelter, it wasn't exactly what I pictured. I pictured it kind of like horrible and scary and frightening, and a bunch of maybe uh, different people, weird people, people that sleep outside. So I pictured it to be that way. I was just really frightened because I was only like 17 years old and I never had to stay in a shelter before. When I got there, it was a building. It looked like an old school building. And when I first went inside, it smelled so good. It smelled like food. Just food was cooking, you know. And the people were so friendly. They had different counselors there. They said that you go through different steps, and they prepare you for not only moving into your own apartment and creating a safe environment for your child, but also teaches you how to be able to maintain finances so that you can continue being able to have a place to stay. So I was thinking like, okay, this definitely was the right thing for me to do. Now, when I got there, it wasn't a bunch of young people in my situation. It was older women that were in their 20s and 30s, 40s, even older than that were in the shelter. It would have been nice to kind of seen a young girl in the shelter at that time with me, because then I would have had somebody to relate to. So there was no young girl at the time in the shelter with me. So I ended up becoming friends with a bunch of older women, which was okay. Staying in the shelter has rules. The first thing they told me was, every single day, if you don't have a job, you have to look for a job. And if you don't have a job that pays enough for you to pay for a place to live, then you still have to be looking for a job. And if you're in school, when you got out of school, you should be looking for a job. Now, in this shelter, they also provide daycare for your child. So if you was in school and you was looking for a job, they helped you. They kept the children while you did what you needed to do. And so I felt like, wow, I ended up in a great place. Now, my situation, I went to school and I had a part-time job. So that means that I had to be searching for a job. That means a full-time job. So now I have a newborn baby. I'm going to need an apartment, and I'm going to need a full-time job, and I still was in high school. How in the world was I going to do this? I don't know. I didn't know at the time. Well, I was freaking out the whole entire time. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't angry. I was mostly scared. Like, I was scared to death. Every single day, I was scared to wake up because I didn't know what I was going to go through that day. Well, now talking to the women, some of them were friends and some of them weren't friends. Some of them was easy to talk to, and some of them was just kind of mean, like scary. So, some of them I didn't talk to. Now, the other thing inside the shelter, we had to all take showers, like, together. Like, it was just one big, huge bathroom with no privacy, no doors to just, take a private shower. It was get in there as fast as you can. And then I remember some days, because I'm not like an aggressive person, I was in line for a long time waiting on a shower. I was in line forever waiting on a shower, okay? And then I'm the type of person that I like to shower before I eat dinner. So once I got my shower and I went to go eat dinner, the dinner wasn't so great. It wasn't much left to pick from. So it took a lot to get used to staying in the shelter. Now, also, one of the rules were that if you did not get back in time, they were not going to open the door for you. So you only had till 8 o'clock at night to get to this shelter. If you did not get to this shelter, you was out back. Gone. That's it. done. Not only that, they putting you out the next day. They're not helping you. They done with you. That's it. Break the rules. That's it. So there I go in a shelter with very, very strict rules. So my mindset was, I'm going to follow the rules because I want to get a place to stay and I want to hurry up and get out of here. So one particular day, I had been in the shelter like for 3 days. And the women were telling me that it's so hard to find a job because the jobs were so far away, you know. And I said, well, what are the better chances to finding a job? They said, well, you're going to have to go outside of Newark, and you probably could get hired like in Bloomfield, Woodbridge, Montclair, Somerset, all those things. They were just saying, you're just going to have to look outside of Newark to find yourself a job. Well, I was able to, because I stayed in this shelter, they provided bus passes for everybody. I was thinking to myself, like, wow, oh my God, I'm going to go everywhere to try to find myself a job. I got a free bus pass. I went and did a search to find out where they were hiring. And the shelter told the women that this place were hiring nurses' aides. And you didn't have to be certified to get hired. Now, they told me they didn't think that I would get the job because I was young. But when I called them, they said actually they start to hire for the summer. If you were 16 years old, you can work for the summer. And I said, oh my God, wow, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to apply for a job. I caught a bus. No, first, I caught a bus to get to the train station. I caught a train to get to Somerset. And from Somerset, the nursing home has a van that picks you up to take you to the nursing home because that's how far away it was. Literally, it took me 4 hours to basically get there because it was my first time, and it took me a long time to get there. When I finally got there, it was a room full of people putting in applications. It was packed. My confidence went way low. Okay, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to get this job. Okay, well, I put in the application, and to my surprise, when I went to go hand the lady my application in the window, she said, well, have a seat, young lady. I'm looking around like, who is she? Me? Have a seat for what? She says, well, after you put in the application, you're going to go through your first interview. I was thinking, what? Oh my God, my first interview? And she said, yeah, I said, oh my God, I really want this. She said, yeah, just have a seat. So I was nervous. And then trying to get up there, I didn't look my best. I didn't really have like this really great outfit on. I didn't feel like I was really appropriate. My hair was a mess. I was tired. I was sleepy. But the lady called me in, and she was sophisticated, had on high heel shoes, black skirt, and had on a white top, and she had on some beads going across her neck, and she had long, beautiful black hair. I just thought, wow, this is great. Like, I felt excited that this was happening for me. She interviewed me, she talked to me, and she gave me some paperwork and told me that this paperwork is for me to go take my drug test, my urine test, and once they get all of that back, I will be working my first day as a nurse's aide. Oh my God, I was freaking out. I was so freaking happy. My cheeks were stuck on my face all day. I could not wait to go down to tell the people at the shelter that I found myself a job. It was like, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. When I returned back to the shelter, I was hoping that they were going to call me, because she told me that they would call me after I take my drug test and everything. I was at the shelter literally 2 weeks. I didn't get a call yet, So now I'm starting to panic, okay? But the shelter told me I need to continue looking for a job because even though the lady said they would call me and I would start my first day, it's been 2 weeks. Well, during that 2 weeks time, I got to know some of the girls. We all stayed in, there were like 3 different big, large rooms, and all the beds were connected together, lined it up by each other. And it was like one row and another row and then another row. And then your child slept with you, or if you had more than one child, then they had their bed and you had a bed. Now, and you had to be in bed by 9 o'clock. The doors closed to the shelter at 8, and you had to be in bed by 9 o'clock. All the lights go off, okay? Now, one particular night, the girls were talking, and they were singing that one of the girls' birthday was coming up, and they wanted to go out and party and celebrate. And, you know, they wanted to go get permission to be able to stay out longer than 8 o'clock from one of the counselors. Well, they asked me would I like to go, and I was thinking, well, am I going to be able to get in the club? Because I'm like only like 17. So one of the girls said, you know what? No, you're too young. What you need to do is you need to just, come with us and ask the counselor. And the more people that we have going to ask the counselor, could we stay out longer, the better chance that we have. So I said, okay, I would do it. So I went with them. And before they could finish, when they said, well, we would all like to stay out a little, no. And if you're in here 1 minute after 8, you're being kicked out. So they were so upset. They were so pissed. But when we all went to bed that night, we were all sitting around and they was talking, and they said that they had a plan. They said, well, the plan is they still going to go out Friday night. They said, well, and what you can do for us is you can watch our children to make sure that they don't wake up crying, don't make any noise, and you can look out for us. And don't go to sleep, because the way our plan works, the window going to have to be open. You're going to have to unlock it, because they make sure they lock the windows every single night, like lock the windows. So now let me mind you, let me tell you guys, we were on maybe like the 3rd floor of this building. Now it wasn't like way up high, but it was like levels of, it was like levels, like 1, 2, 3. So, it was high enough. We was on like the 3rd floor, okay? Because the 1st floor was the entrance door where everybody come in. They had the cafeteria and things of that nature. And then the 2nd floor was the showers, the bathrooms, the counselor's offices and stuff like that. And then when we slept, the sleeping quarters were on the 3rd floor, okay? And there were some counselors who worked overnight. They were there with us, okay? We were never left alone. And my dumb tail says, because I wanted to be friends with everybody, and I didn't have no friends at the time, only person I had was Juanita. And of course I couldn't get to see her no more because she was still in high school and she was working, I was working. Now I'm staying in this shelter that's so far away from her house. And she didn't drive, so I didn't see Juanita hardly ever while I was staying in the shelter. So I was just excited about the fact that I had friends and people that I could talk to. So I agreed to be the lookout man. I don't know why they choose me, but somehow or another, they knew I probably was a bad kid. So they was like, yeah, she'll do it. They told me all I had to do, now this is what they said. They said all I had to do was unlock the window and they would get back in. Now, I knew we was on the 3rd floor, but I was thinking to myself, unlock the window and they're going to get back in. Okay, well, they must know something I don't know. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe outside the window there's a fireplace or something. They're going to climb in and out of this window. So here come the time. They said they was going to leave like late at night when it was just quiet. I was knocked out sleep when one of the ladies woke me up and she said, you ready?